Okay, call to order the 5:30 meeting of the August 13th, 2018 meeting of the Regional Transit Board of Directors. Would the clerk please call the roll to establish quorum?
Director Budge?
Here.
Director Hansen is marked as being absent. Director Harris?
Here.
Director Detrick is here for Director Hume.
Welcome.
Director Jennings is absent. Director Miller?
Present.
Director Moran?
Here.
Director Natoli?
Here.
Director Chenier?
Here.
Director Cerna? Chair Kennedy.
Here.
With that, we have a quorum at 100 votes. This meeting of the Sacramento Regional Transit District will be cablecast without interruption on Metro Cable, the local government affairs channel. Tonight's meeting will air on Wednesday, August 15th at 9 a.m. and replayed on Friday, August 17th at 9 a.m. and will be webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. It is also closed caption. Members of the audience wishing to address the board should fill out a speaker card located at the rear of the room and provide it to me or Adam. Please speak into the microphone and state your name for the record. We would appreciate everyone turning off their cell phones. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you'll please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With that, we go to public addresses the board on matters not on the agenda. And the arrival of Director Cerna.
Okay, well, you're challenging me here. So the first is, I believe, Loco Lolazella? Oh,
I like Loco. That's actually quite awesome.
it does look like an L.
I might use that.
Okay.
Cocozella
Thank you.
from Sacramento. A couple things. I like Connect Card. That's a positive. If the Folsom buses become part of RT, something to think about for the future is to please increase the frequency of the number 10 service to every half hour
Cindy?
at least.
It's on.
Oh, okay, there, thank you.
Please. And a larger scope of that topic is please try to not use current ridership as the only metric to determine the future frequency, because I feel strongly that sometimes ridership may be lower because service is not adequate. So it's kind of like a funny situation. So I propose that ridership will increase if the service is adequate to really serve the needs. Another thing is I ride the train every day as a commuter. I have some concerns about the driving techniques on the trains. They're frequently extremely jerky when coming to a stop, and sometimes, actually quite frequently, they'll pull into a station and kind of like stop and then lurch forward and then jerk to stop. It's kind of strange, and this happens very frequently. So maybe some renewed training or something about the quality of conductorship. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Mike Barnbaum. Good evening, Mike.
Hey, Chair Kennedy, members of the board. This is a presentation to the board that's a follow-up from a presentation made by staff during the general manager's report at your last board meeting. Staff reported, as usual, the financials, the ridership numbers, and how the picture of RT looks. If you will recall, ridership is very strong during the peak of the peak times. Where ridership has been a concern and has dropped considerably has been the off-peak time, nights and weekends especially. So I have some news as part of this presentation to help boost evenings, weekends, and non-peak times. I'm pleased to announce that the 2018-2019 Sacramento Kings schedule has been officially released. It was released at 1 p.m. on Friday the 10th. There are 43 home games, 41 of them regular season games and 2 preseason games. Of those 43, 36 of them will tip off at 7 p.m. Here are the exceptions. Sunday, November 25th, 3:30 p.m.
Maintenance.
Thursday, November 29th, 7:30 p.m.
Just oil changes. We also exchange
Sunday, December 23rd,
all in
3 p.m. New Year's Day, Tuesday, January 1st, 6 p.m. Sunday, February 10th, 3 p.m. St. Patrick's Day, Sunday, March 17th, 3 p.m. And Fan Appreciation Night, Sunday, April 7th at 6 p.m. Here's just a note for the record on the current service, and as you will recall, there was a change on Father's Day this year. So here is the most up-to-date last train information. For non-Sunday holiday slate of games from 7th and Capitol, the last Gold Line train to Folsom is at 10:24 p.m. and Blue Line to Cosumnes River College 11:16 p.m. At 9th and K, the last Blue Line is at 12:32 a.m. For the Sunday holiday slate of games, the last Gold Line to Folsom at 7th and Capitol is 8:24 p.m. Blue Line to Cosumnes River 9:16 p.m. and Blue Line to Watt I-80 10:32 p.m. Thank you for allowing me to make this presentation.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you for reminding us about the 3 o'clock game on St. Patrick's Day. Helen O'Connell.
Good evening, Chair and Board. My name is Helen O'Connell. I found out that you're making a cut to prices for Los Rios students that have one or less, less than one class or less, 3 units or less. And I think if you're making special arrangements for that particular group, maybe you could reconsider in reinstating the lifetime pass for seniors over 80. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Robert Copeland. Welcome, Robert.
What Coco said about the light rail trains being jerky, I can vouch for that myself. They need better training. And some of your bus routes are notoriously late. The 67 and the 68 especially, 10, 15 minutes late sometimes. Why? There should be a better way to handle this. And I was in San Francisco a week and a half ago. Their bus system is a lot better than ours. I mean, a way much better. I mean, 8 minutes on some of their bus lines. 14R was a bus I took, 8 minutes, and it was packed on a Saturday afternoon. And any route optimization should take in future growth in the areas in Sacramento County. And I had something else to say, but it's a matter for Sacramento City Council, so I'm not going to say it here.
Thank you, Robert. Jeffrey Tartagia. Somebody want to get Jeffrey a microphone?
He just didn't want to cooperate.
You okay, Jeffrey?
Yes. All right, we'll do this way. Patrick, I am still waiting for that consultation with Mr. Walker. It's been interesting on that.
Would you please, Mr. Lee? Mr. Tartagia needs a contact with our consultant on the route optimization study. Could you please make that connection? Thank you.
I'm having fun time reading the book. I hope you've had a good time reading Mr. Walker's book. Today, 434 Gold Line pulled into the Sac Valley Station. It's when it's supposed to leave. As you are right now working on the 51, this Saturday, the fare box machines were not functioning. Was it blank one in the morning, and when I went in the afternoon, there was a failure on. I do not know whether this is operator training, and I met up with another one that said on the side of the box that it was good. I know that for the light rail, you've had 30 of them being out of commission. I'm wondering how many of the Connect Card fare boxes are not functioning at all times. And when you have that, particularly on the 51, you lose a fair amount of revenue because simply for the entire trip of that, there is no fare being collected. And that's back and forth, and I do not know how many times. And this was just a Saturday. Also, I will bring to your attention is that the SAC TA, you had a discussion related to the reminder of, hey, SB1 money. I'm hoping that that message gets through the members about, SB1 and the importance, before you even go considering about a new Measure A effort, is that please, you need to be focused on November of keeping the SB1 money here because showing what it is doing right now. And that means this week I'm going to be saying to all of you guys, you all need to go where there are drivers. Not transit people, but drivers, and get the message to them that this is important. So it's not us transit riders because the percentage of that, as your Valley study suggested through there, it is the other people that need to know how much structure is dependent upon these effort and dollars. I see I have 45 seconds left. I will say to you also that, board, that it started with Elaine, and the last person I'm aware of that's been lost was Wendy, if I understand correctly. So you're back to you have no one for running the web again. Lastly, I guess we'll say is hey, there's more, but please. Changes need to happen and communication needs to be figured out much better and much more. And yes, Steve, you're not here, so I don't get to chastise you about B, but I'm glad to see you're doing connecting so with the city.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Sarah Kerber?
Good evening, Chair and Board. I'm here tonight to announce our upcoming SAC RT Challenge. SAC True is inviting the RT Board, General Manager and CEO Henry Lee, and other elected officials around Sacramento to participate in a transit riding competition that challenges our community leaders to ride public transit for 1 week, the week of September 16th to the 22nd. We believe that the best way for our community's leaders to be informed to make informed choices is through firsthand experience of what riding on public transit in our community is actually like. Similar to the SF Muni Challenge in 2015, where elected officials rode public transit and posted photos about their experience to social media, City Council member Scott Wiener won that. This is an exciting opportunity to engage with the public and make public transit fun. We'll be tracking points through photos that participants post and tag of themselves riding public transit using the hashtag SacRTChallenge on Facebook, Twitter, or by directly emailing it to us at info@sactrue.org. We'll record points daily on our tracker on our website at www.sactrue.org/transitchallenge. And double points will be awarded for posts with your constituents, and triple points will be awarded for posts by your constituents with you in it. Remember to use hashtag SacRT Challenge, and we hope that this is a fun way to increase enthusiasm and use of public transit in our community. Please feel free to contact me with any questions you might have about the challenge. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah. Mr. Ketterling.
Yes, Board, thank you for having me speak. I was wanting to ask if you have an idea of when the Smart Ride might be going to I-80 itself, because it would help quite a bit with people, and I know that it's about the same distance from the Folsom light rail station than it would with I-80, and I know that it would help a lot of people too, by if they could get at I-80 station a little quicker. Say if they have to come down this direction that we're in right at the moment, it would help tremendously. And I know that you're going to be keeping I-80, and I know that there's needs to be work done on over there. But even if you don't start it right there at I-80 itself, even if it was Roseville Road would help of being connected to come over this way. And that's what I wanted to mention. And I know that there's been several people asking about that as well.
Thank you, Art. And staff, we got those questions. We will get back to you, Art. Okay. And I just got another card from Felix, and I am afraid I cannot read the... Huerta. Okay, there we go. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Board. My name is Felix Huerta. I'm the business agent organizer for Operating Engineers Local 3. And I'm here today to provide to you copies of the most recent communication we've had with the state of California. They have accepted our petition for unionization. There is a hearing set. First date of the hearing is set for September 19th. I want to point out to you the petition and the response from the state of California says very clearly, and you'll look at the last page of the document, the scope of the hearing will be limited to one question and one question only. It's whether or not the proposed unit that we've submitted is an appropriate unit under the law. So all the other questions, issues that your Labor Relations Director has submitted to the state has been eliminated, and it's been directed to one issue. The issue is we petitioned for a new group called, and we're not petitioning, as I said the last time, for the original group, which is called the Employee Management what is called the AEA, excuse me, I apologize, Management Confidential Employee Group, MCEG. We didn't petition for that group. And I said the last time, there's a reason why. We don't want Mr. Henry Lee to be in the unit because he's part of that original group. We don't want Mr. Stephen Booth to be in that group because he's in labor relations. Nor do we want your general counsel, assistant general counsel, and all the vice presidents that you have. There are 11 of those positions that we've said we're not interested in. So the unit that we petitioned for is called Management Professional Employee Group, MPEG. That's the only issue that the state is going to rule on. So we hope that you will direct your labor relations director, your general counsel, and any legal counsel that you hire to let the employees organize. They have submitted a majority of the cards for unionization. You're going to spend $5,000 to $10,000 in your legal costs that is unnecessary. So we ask you to direct your administrators to let the unionization go through, approve the unit that we've petitioned for, that's an acceptable unit, and go from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item is the I'm sorry.
Mark, you...
That's the question for the chair. If you'd like us to respond to
Felix is
Very minimally.
So absolutely, Felix is correct. We're going through the process for determining which job classifications are appropriate for this bargaining unit, if any are appropriate for the bargaining unit. That's the process we'll be undertaking. And obviously, we don't have agreement on all of the positions that should be in that bargaining unit if it forms. And so we're going through that process through the state, as he outlined, beginning in the middle of September. We'll have more when we finish.
Okay, Mr. Huerta. Understood? You have 30 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, it's very rare that
It's very
they
rare
will
that
respond,
let you do this.
and I appreciate that. But again, I want to say that we have petitioned for an appropriate unit. He's absolutely right that we will have a hearing, but we believe that the unit is appropriate, and we ask that you direct your management to look at the list. It's all about reporting relationships, and is it an appropriate unit? So we believe it's an appropriate unit, and we hope that you will direct your leadership to allow them to unionize. Thank you.
Got it, thank you. Okay.
Consent calendar items 1 through 7, and you have no speakers for any of those items.
Any questions on consent? Comments?
Second.
Moved by Director Chenier. Second, who seconded?
Miller?
Mr. Miller?
Chair
All those-
Kennedy, want to abstain on motion on item 1.
Okay, and the record will show that Director Detrick abstained on which item?
Item 1.
Item 1. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Next item.
Okay, well, the motion carries on item 1 as well as the other 6 items. Next is item number 8, the general manager's report.
Good evening, Chair Kennedy, members of the board, and the public. Our Smart Ride Zone was launched in middle of February in Central Heights. Now it's 6 months. As you can see, this is our trending line. We used to start from 30 rides a day. Now we are over 300 a day. On June 30th, we launched our Smart Ride for the Franklin South Sacramento communities. We host a press conference at the Capitol Center on Franklin Boulevard, and we were joined by a number of dignitaries, including Congresswoman Matsui, Mayor Stenberg, and SAC-RT board directors, including Chair Kennedy, Director Harris, and Chenier. We were informed that 2 mayors from this board would join us, but we didn't see you guys. The launch brings this innovative new service to some underserved communities, and we have already seen a steady growth in ridership, and we hope the steady increase will continue. Okay. Our next topic is about the wide open walls. If you can see from here, SAC-RT is a participant in the Wide Open Walls Festival for the city. Work has begun on transforming our customer service center on Art Street with a detailed, vibrant art piece showing color, nature, and energy. I want to share these photos with you guys, with the public and the board, and I encourage everyone to make their way to Art Street to see this beautiful work of the art. Last Friday, SAC-RT had a project showing of our new $1 million state-of-art light rail wash system. The energy efficient and environmentally friendly wash system utilizes recycled water and is very quick, less than 5 minutes per car. We had very good coverage from KCRA, CBS 13, Capital Public Radio and the Sacramento Bee in last couple days. So I just wanted to play a quick clip from CBS Good Day Sacramento.
Sacramento Regional Transit goes green with a new train washing system that uses recycled water.
And since all 97 trains are washed weekly, that's a lot of water.
That's a whole mess of water. Dina Kupfer joins us live with a look at this $1 million system in action. Hey, Dina.
Well, to our Good Day viewers, good morning. You are getting an exclusive first-hand look at this perspective of this brand new state-of-the-art car wash for Sac RT trains. It is all new and it is all high-tech. These RT members have gone across the country trying to figure out the best possible use of the system, trying to really cater it to these trains. And you are getting a first look this morning at the process in the works. This live look here, it's so cool to see these trains coming through. A huge washer, by the way, because it's got to take care of all these trains coming through Sac Regional Transit. And we've got the CEO and General Manager of Sac RT, Henry Lee, with us this morning to talk more about the trains. And also, let's also discuss how much recycled water comes from these trains, because that's something we're all a little curious about as well. Henry, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes.
100% of the water is recycled during the rinsing process. 60%. Okay. So the last update on July 25th and 27th, Sac RT hosted the Federal Transit Administration for our triennial audit review. Sac RT staff start preparing for the site visit 9 months ago in order to ensure the compliance with FTA's rules and regulations. The audit is an intensive review of our records, thousands of records, documents, properties, fundings, and more. Preliminary results indicate that Sac RT has findings in 3 out of 20 areas, which focused on the program management and the federal funding sub-recipient oversight. But this was a significant improvement from the previous review 3 years ago. In 2015, we had 9 findings in 9 areas. Now we only have 3. But in the meantime, we are confident we will be able to completely correct 2 out of 3 findings within a month. So even one finding which takes about 3 months cycle to make that happen. I just want to thank the entire Sac RT team for the extremely hard work to make this review a successful review, and especially want to acknowledge our Sac RT's internal auditor, Matt Pinkerton. Hey, Matt, are you there? And he literally worked tirelessly, and our FTA's auditor told us they received lots of documents after midnight. They kind of are very touched by the work Matt has been done, which ensured the audit went very smoothly. That concludes my report. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Board? No? All right, next item, please.
I believe you have one speaker on this item.
Number 8, yes, we do. Robert Copeland, please. Thank you.
I read where the lifetime pass is supposed to be in this report. General Lee's man's report. Why was it not mentioned? And I know people that are getting lifetime passes now. I don't know if that's about RT Pub, but I know some people that are actually getting lifetime passes. And as far as the recycled water, are the RT buses also use recycled water? That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Next item.
Item number 9, before you are 2 resolutions. One is amending and restating Title III of the Sacramento Regional Transit District Administrative Code relating to rules of procedure with closed session at the beginning of the meeting, or a second choice, Resolution B, amending and restating Title III of the Sacramento Regional Transit District Administrative Code relating to rules of procedure with closed session remaining at the end of the meeting. And here to present is Laura Ham.
Good evening, Chair Kennedy and directors. So I'll just quickly go over for you. As Cindy described, there are 2 options for the placement of closed session. Option A would reorder the agenda and move closed session nearer to the beginning of the meeting. The potential benefits are related to multi-part actions that require open and closed session review, but it's primarily the board's preference for maximum efficiency and participation as to how you'd like to order closed session. Both options include a recommendation to rearrange the order of business, including moving public hearings earlier in the agenda and moving the general manager's report, a non-action item, to the end of the agenda. We're also proposing clarifying that a chair may serve successive years upon annual election and making a number of general clerical edits to the document.
All right, are there any questions of the board? I do have speaker slips. Member Budge.
Wait, I'll have you.
Okay. So, Laura, I'm sorry. As near as I can tell, I don't have a copy of.
Linda, do you have your mic on?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. I don't have a copy of what the 2 different agendas would look like.
We did not attach sample agendas. So the order of business for option A, moving closed session to the beginning, the meeting would be called to order, then the board would immediately adjourn to closed session.
It really is in here somewhere.
It is.
There's samples. Okay, so that's his Article 3.
I can help you.
3.12.
Okay, here's one. Okay.
And then one back there.
And here's this. Okay, super.
So that would, and this would be.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else, Member Budge?
No, I got it.
Okay.
Mr. Toll.
Director Natoli.
Yeah, I just wanted to, on the order of business, it would seem to me that certainly to, I think, maximize public participation and certainly people's ability to stay with us, particularly if we have a long agenda. I guess I would just offer that maybe the chair working with the general manager that we can adopt the normal order. Right now, we've switched this to have the closed sessions at the end of the meeting, but depending upon the time, rarely do we have long closed sessions, but there can be an opportunity. I hate to have people wait down here an hour while we're in closed session, so it would seem to me that there ought to be some ability, working with the general manager, with the chair, to determine, what would be the appropriate order. I think the focus on having the maximum, public access and participation ought to be the key here. And if we want to move the, closed session to the front of the agenda, we certainly can do that. But I'd hate to see it have people waiting down here for an hour or better while we're in that. So I guess that may be with the exception rather than a rule. And I don't know that we have to call out necessarily. I think we have the ability certainly to have that flexibility, particularly with a closed session, to publish that, obviously, make sure it's well publicized with the publication of our agenda. So I just would offer that as a suggestion, as maybe one way to handle it. Whatever order we adopt, I think that it ought to be with consideration for folks that would be here waiting to see the action items.
So I think what I'm hearing is that maybe this is a kind of a default, but play it by ear and case by case.
Yeah.
Because I completely agree.
Yeah.
The concern is that sometimes we lose members when we put closed session to the end, and that was.
Well, right, and I get both ways. So again, I would just, I'm fine with putting it early in the agenda. We come into session and so forth. As suggested here, makes sense. But if we were going to know we were going to have some matter that would take a lot of attention in closed session, certainly not people not know what we're going to do, but to accommodate those action items that we have on the agenda.
I completely agree. Can we make that? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, and then the other thing I just wanted to ask about, because buried in here, not buried, but in the material was that we're going to no longer do the live streaming because we're not sure we're compliant with
rules that govern access, certainly for people who may have, either audio and or other challenges. And so how is that we advertise that, we don't do it, but I know some of the things that are telecast on are broadcast live and live streamed, and we make arrangements through, parties that do that, third party.
So in the past, in addition to having the meeting recorded and later broadcast on Metro Cable, we live streamed on the SAC-RT website.
Right.
Our live stream on the SAC-RT website, we don't have the capability of providing closed captions with the technology that we have available to us right now. Metro Cable can do that for us. Unfortunately, it won't be live at the time of the meeting, but that will be fully captioned and recorded and rebroadcast at a later date.
So we don't have the capacity. I think we use Capture in Colorado, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, they're one of the contractors that does that, and they have somebody who, the simultaneous broadcast, they're, putting out the simultaneous, capture of the meeting, so it's read across the screen. We don't have the ability to do that?
Through the SAC-RT site is my understanding that we haven't had the ability to do the closed captioning, only through our Metro Cable agreement.
Okay, so I guess I would just suggest that we ought to take a look at that again. I don't know what
I
sort of
agree.
expenses
That's
involved and so forth, but I think it's important for folks who can't make it here, if if they can watch it at home or at their place of business or somewhere else remotely. And again, I don't know how many subscribers you have, but to me that's not necessarily the dictating factor either. But I guess I'd like to know a little bit more what it would take, and if it's a major expenditure, obviously there are other priorities, but I think it's important to, if you can have your meeting broadcast live, certainly over the web, live stream, that if we could do that and meet with other requirements we have for accessibility, then I'd like to see us at least have some information back on that.
Okay, we'll follow up on that.
Thanks.
Perhaps,
Mr. Miller.
perhaps someone could sponsor that closed captioning, the cost of it. And
Like
while
the
I-
city of Citrus Heights.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm thinking more of a business entity
Oh,
than
oh,
a
oh,
government
okay.
entity. But collectively, maybe we all can. While I have the floor, I just, we used to have our closed session at 5 and 6, and I didn't think it was broken, We started our meetings at 6, so the public knew when we were starting. And having the meetings beforehand, certainly a lot of the issues we found with real estate and bargaining agreements and so on, we needed to have the closed session before the meeting. Now, possibly we could schedule at 5 for our closed session and keep our start time, whether it's 5:30 or 6. I know there's some issues both for board members and the public getting here, and I certainly respect that. But we seem to have more problems with it at the end than we do at the beginning.
Yeah,
So
Mr. Chair.
that's my 2
Yes.
cents.
Yeah, having now had a chance to look at it, I want to second Director Miller's point that there were obviously some reasons for not doing closed session right at the beginning, and I truly don't remember what those were, except that it seemed as though it was a way in which to give people access to the main body of the meeting at a time that seemed to work better for everybody. And so using option A is really, with the exception of the rearrangement of the general manager's report, is like going back to the way we did it before, except that it simply delays everything by a half an hour, and it isn't 2 formal meetings. So I'm not sure. As Don said, if you do the closed session at the beginning and you don't schedule a time certain for the regular meeting to start, then, if something is really going to take a long time, then people truly could be waiting for a long time. So it just seems a little too vague.
Okay, so that kind of is contrary to what Director Natoli, and I don't want to put words in Director Natoli.
Well, no, he was pointing out the fact that a long closed session would necessitate
Right,
people
and
waiting for a long time.
But your concern was to leave it vague, but seemed to me like Director Natoli was calling for
Okay,
flexibility.
well, it just seems like if we're gonna do this at the beginning, having time certain start times would work out better for everyone the way we used to.
Okay. Anything else? We do have speakers. Yes, sir.
So the conversation is still a little vague. I mean, if we, thank you for that, Ms. Budge. We can do a time certain start for the meeting. I think that the public deserves that. But there will be occasions when closed session runs long. So unless we have a way that's stated right now on how to do that, I'm not content moving the motion forward. You know, if we have a closed session item that might take an hour and a half, would the scenario then be we come down and somebody makes an announcement saying, you know, we'll be tied up another half hour? You know, the public might react adversely to that, or they might accept it well. But it's a point that has to be reckoned with before we move something forward here. I mean, we really haven't said if we want to go with A or B, or just leave it open to discussion.
Thank you. Okay, I'm ready to make a motion to approve staff recommendation, but I want to put off the change of closed session time at this point. I don't think that there is consensus on the board, and I understand the concerns of the public.
Did you say there's public comment?
Yes.
Shouldn't we hear your public comment
Well,
before there's a
but we can
motion
put a
made?
motion on the table and then discuss. I understand that you and I have procedural issues all the time, but I am making that motion. Is there a second? And then we can have discussion.
So are you moving option B? Is that what I'm?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll second.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second on the table. Now we will take public comment. And first is Helen O'Connell.
Good evening again. This is Helen O'Connell. I'm part of SAC2 and the Mobility Advisory Council for RT. I think if you have the closed session before the meeting, it should be noted that that the RT board meeting would be at a regular time, and you could adjust the meeting ahead of time, whether it'd take an hour or an hour and a half. You'd have to adjust it for everybody. Or you can just leave it the way it is now and make exceptions for certain times when you need the whole board present.
I believe that you just seconded Director Natoli's motion.
Thank you.
Director Kenny's motion is on the table.
Which isn't far from your motion, Mr. Yes. Okay, next we have Mr. Barbaum.
Yes. Thank you. First of all, let me congratulate staff that put this together for the board and for a healthy discussion tonight. This wasn't a very easy report to write or present. The discussion has been very positive and professional, great exchange of ideas. I would even put on the table perhaps even a friendly amendment in the main motion. Consider the fixed start time of open session to 6 p.m. if the commitments towards SAC-RT Forward and other processes going on during the business day at hand can show a commitment not just exclusively to rail, as you saw what happened on Father's Day, but additional service is operating later into the evening as well. I mean, yes, until then, and there's a commitment to invest in later evening service, perhaps to the motion on the table right now, I would second it that option B is the best choice to have the comment period on non-agenda matters in the beginning of the agenda and the closed session that the public is not accessible to at the end of the meeting. But to the point made on the board, when there's a lot of things at the end of the meeting, yes, I share the concern that there can be a loss of members, therefore a loss of votes that are very much needed to move an item forward and report back either at the meeting or at the next meeting, as well as with stuff affecting the public directly not being able to stay because a service is not running that they need late, you start to lose members of the audience too. So it's a balancing act. But certainly to the final point, sponsorships are going to be needed critically going forward. I work with a lot of folks at KHTK to help out with things like that. You know, there's a promo now that says, it's time to book your tee time at the Ridge Golf Course up in Auburn. Book anything after 2 p.m. and golf for only $20. Go to ridgegc.com for details. And that's a great sponsorship that they have at the sports updates.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Just an example.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. This message brought to you by Sarah Kerber, please.
Good evening, board and members. I think I didn't say my name the last time I was up here, so I'll do it this time. My name is Sarah Kerber. I'm here with the Sacramento Transit Riders Union, SAC-TRU, and I'm here to express that SAC-TRU opposes moving closed session to the beginning of the agenda and moving public comment later in the agenda schedule, which would make public participation more difficult for riders. While we appreciate that the board may need to leave early, sometimes I also want to leave early. But if the board isn't here for public comment, then that limits our ability to communicate our concerns with our elected officials. One of our concerns is that this going to encourage early departure among the board that would limit our ability to communicate with you in a public forum, which would be one of our concerns. We also are concerned about the indefinite start time created by the move, which will make it difficult for transit-dependent riders to plan their travel and ensure that members of the public are able to participate and give their opinion before action is taken rather than after. So we urge you not to move closed session to the beginning of the meetings.
Thank you, Sarah. And Coco, it's a C.
Thank you, Coco Cocazella. Thanks for letting me squeeze this in, and I'm sorry for walking in front of you before. I don't know what I was thinking. Anyway, and an idea popped into my head, but I will word it a little bit stronger than my colleague Sarah. I think it's somewhat ludicrous to not have a definite starting time for the public participation. But in any case, is it possible if there were closed session, let's say the set time for the public portion is 6 p.m. and the closed session looks like it will go over, in those cases, can it simply be deferred to the end? So if you're going to go over, then hold off the rest of that part and restart it at the end after the public. Does that make sense? What I'm saying? Okay.
You get it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coco. Director Harris.
So the only problem I see with this is that every once in a while we might have a general agenda item that's predicated upon the outcome of closed session. If that's the case, all we have to do is reconvene and take those items after. That means, Sarah, that maybe you have to leave before we finish that business. That's the downside for you. But I'm inclined to keep it the way it is and do closed session after. And if it plays out that way, that we have a long closed session and we have to come back and do some business following that, then you will either have to stay and participate in that process, or you won't be able to because you have to leave. So that's the downside for you, but overall, what I'm hearing from the public is that it's much better to have a guaranteed start time, generally earlier in the evening, so to facilitate transit needs, and that we can work out our issues with closed session on our time.
Thank you, Director. Director Budge.
So, looking at option B, there are 3 opportunities for public comment on public hearings. Item 6, which is unfinished business, item 7, which is public hearings, and item 9, which is new business. So what was the thought between inserting public addressing the board on matters not on the agenda during the middle of hearing opportunities as opposed to putting it on one side or the other?
Laura?
I'm sorry, so one more time for me, if you don't mind.
Okay, so item 6 is unfinished business. Item 7 is public hearings, and item 9 is new business. Whereas item 8 is public addresses the board on matters not in the agenda, right in the middle of the 3 opportunities, the 3 hearing sections on the agenda. So what's the thought process behind putting that in the middle as opposed to putting it on one side or another of the basic public hearing items?
I think the rationale behind that primarily, and we've looked at this every which way, I'll just start with saying that, that was primarily related to if we moved closed session, then all of the public comment or public hearings would be closer to the board reconvening after closed session, was the rationale. And if I don't have that right, I'll let.
Well, but new
Mayor
business
Henry
is
jump in.
also, I mean, even though it's not officially called a public hearing, it's still a public hearing. I mean, if you
For
look
new
at,
business.
if you look at our standard agenda tonight, you know, they just follow in a nice logical order. And the reason we have 3 different segments is really because of the way in which the law classifies them, not because they're not public hearings.
That's what I wanted to clarify, Director Budge and directors. The public hearing is specific to things such as eminent domain.
Right.
such
Legal public
as
hearing, right.
Fair
Yeah, things that are
changes
legally a
or-
public
Right, they're
hearing.
specific. It's not the public talking to you.
Right.
Under conversation.
So-
And we very infrequently have that particular item. So generally, we pass through that regularly.
Well, we have all 3 tonight.
So if it was a
public
legally
hearing tonight.
no public hearing tonight yet. So that would be, we had one most recently, I think, on the budget, correct? So that, we felt maybe was a higher priority for public comment over new business, but not necessarily. That's your preference.
It just seems like a solution trying to find a problem. Sorry.
We're trying to find the solution. We're trying to get there.
Director Natoli.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, maybe just to boil this down, I did note that on the option, I guess it's option B, which would retain the closed session at the end of the meeting. There's a note that's pretty clear, maybe that ought to be in red rather than black. It says, this order of business may be changed after opening of a session upon order of the chair with consent of the board or upon motion of the board. So I guess if we retain it the way it is, but we have necessity to, in advance of any item that's on the published agenda that evening that needs to be taken in closed session, we just tell the public as we come into session, we've got to go into closed session. We'll explain, but it keeps it to discrete items, doesn't get into some other things we may deal more routinely with closed session. And I think it reflects certainly the public sentiment here. So I guess I would suggest maybe we got to just make sure that note's real clear. And when we open the meetings, then you or anybody else who's chairing, we can have that discussion if we need to reorder the agenda that evening. So
Thank you.
And for clarification, Chair and Director Natoli, this note has always been there.
Yeah.
This is not any addition or change.
No, I know, I'm just saying, but call it out so everybody knows, and that way I think it helps with our functioning here, so.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right. We have a motion on the table and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Opposed?
Let's do a roll call vote, please.
No.
Okay, let me turn on my microphone. Director Hansen is absent.
Can I just ask for
Director,
clarity? So we're voting on the one that would reorder to,
we're voting on option B.
which is?
Which basically
Which is
encapsulates
keeping
everything
close-
you've said tonight.
Okay, so this is not familiar. Yeah.
Keeping closed session at the end.
Closed session, yeah, closed session, yes, okay. Okay.
Okay.
That's what I thought.
All right, I'll start all over just in case things change. Director Budge.
No.
Director Hansen is marked as being absent. Director Harris.
Aye.
Director Detrick.
No.
Director Jennings is marked as being absent. Director Miller.
No.
Director Morin.
Yes.
Director Natoli.
Aye.
Director Chenier.
Aye.
Director Cerna.
Aye.
Chair Kennedy.
Aye. Do the math.
And what?
Do the math.
81 votes.
There we go.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so starting with the next agenda on August 27th, it will be reordered in this fashion.
Thank you. Next item.
Next item is item number 10.
Is your mic?
Item number 10, resolution delegating authority to the general manager, CEO, to approve a third amendment to the Student Transit Pass Program Agreement 2015 with Los Rios Community College District to reduce fares for fall semester 2018 for students enrolled in 3 or fewer units, and Brent Berniker is here to present.
All right, sorry, I'm gonna mistake this real quick. Let's see. Thank you. All right, good evening, Director Kennedy and members of the board. Hopefully this isn't as controversial. I think it won't be, but you never know, right?
Welcome to Regional Transit.
Right. So what we're talking about today is the Los Rios Pass program, student program. We put this in place back in 2004. It is a pass program, and back in 2004 all the way to 2014, we had all students participate in this pass program, which meant they all paid towards a transit fee and that gave them an unlimited pass to ride transit for that semester. In 2016, there were a lot of changes that we made to that agreement. We weren't receiving a lot of money from that agreement initially, and what I mean by a lot of money is we were receiving about $1 million. That wasn't enough to sustain operations because that was giving us about a 26-cent average fare. So what we did is we upped that, and we required students taking 4 or more units to pay more per unit for that pass, but still it's a relatively cheap program for a semester pass. In addition to that, though, we also did something where students with 3 or less units, they actually no longer paid a fee, and they were no longer eligible to get a semester pass. What they actually had to do was buy a monthly pass, and they would buy it at the monthly rate, discounted rate of about 50% off the full month's pass. So after 2016, we started looking at this data. And I know we're in 2018 and you wonder why it took so long. Well, what you have to understand is when we first implemented this change, it was a 6-month change, and then we have to wait for about a year for the ridership survey to come in to kind of gauge like how we're doing with this program. So what we've learned is that those people taking under 3 units, that was a big hit to ridership. I'm going to get to that in just a minute, but I would like to propose that we are going to ask for a change to that program to address that. And there's a couple things that I want to talk about with this proposal. We want to make a temporary change because we know that making a permanent change will require a Title VI analysis. And also we want to do some more changes in the spring semester. The second change that I want to point out is this will not impact anyone with 4 units or above. Those are going to remain intact the way the program is in place. So we're just looking at people with 3 units or below. And what we want to do is we want to allow for disabled services and program students. That's a definition that Los Rios uses, which is people with 3 or less units to ride for free. There's about 400 people in that group. And then we want to allow students with 3 units or less to pay $5 a month for a monthly pass. So the reason why we have this change is, as we've been saying in some of these monthly ridership and finance meetings that we have, is ridership has actually gone down. When we look at 2015, which is 1 full year of data, versus 2017, where we have another full year of data, we lost about 3.7 million rides, of which Los Rios represented about a decrease of 1.8 million of those rides. So that in itself kind of tells you there was a general ridership decline, but a lot of this ridership had to do with the Los Rios students. So when we looked at proposing this change, we also looked at this from a fiscal impact standpoint. We noticed that our calculations for units, for those people that had 3 or less units that were buying monthly passes, we were only collecting $368 per month because they were basically shelling out $55 a month for that pass. So there was a price barrier problem there. And also we noticed that we also determined when proposing this change that we think like by lowering that from $55, which was originally down to $20, and now we're bringing it down to $5, we think there's going to be a lot more attraction for new riders. The second thing we want to talk about is there's a lot of benefits to this program. One of the big benefits is mobility. Then we also have the utilization of our existing system. We still have seats on the buses or room in the trains for those people to ride. And then also we want to deal with this potential ridership drop that we've been seeing. We've been seeing this for many years now. We need to start taking more serious action towards that. So as before you, we've put together these 2 recommended items, which is temporarily providing that free semester pass for the disabled services and program students, and also reducing the monthly pass down to $5 for students with 3 units or less. So I want to open this up to, if you have any questions, we can address those. Yeah.
Director Natoli.
I guess what really struck me here was that I know we raised the fares and adjusted them when it came to the Los Rios student population, and I get it about what we're going to do this evening, but you're talking about, you figured 400
for the
students,
first group,
it would be in that group. But when I look at the ridership drop of 1.8 million, 1.85 million, that is concerning. I mean, because you've lost riders who may not be riding under that pass program, but probably aren't using the system nearly to the degree that they were, if they even are. And this is not going to address that. You're going to get a segment of it, but a very small segment, I would take, because even if you had 400 riders that rode every day of the year, you'd still wouldn't get to 1.8 million.
I think I need to clarify.
Okay.
The 400 was only for the disabled services program students.
Okay.
The students with 3 units or less, that is a much bigger population.
Okay.
So let me give you some numbers with that. What we did is we looked at the stickers that are issued, and we found that in fiscal year 15, they gave out 52,000 stickers. In fiscal year 17, when we eliminated that program for 3 or less units, they only were able to give out 34,000 stickers. So you had a huge drop in the number of stickers.
18,000 riders then.
No, that's actually stickers that are given to someone, and then they can ride, on average, however many times, if it's 70 times a month or whatever it may be. So we're looking at, and I apologize, when I said the 400, that was just for that small group. Yeah.
So what we're talking about here, so that's an important clarification, Brent. So basically, we cut the potential ridership pool through that agreement by about a full 30% then.
Exactly. And actually what we're finding is the students with 3 units or less, they actually ride more frequently than the students with more units, and maybe the other ones are busy studying. But it doesn't take away that they're still students. They're still trying to work towards their degree. What we found when we first did the negotiations is that there was a little bit of abuse for those students with 3 units or less. What we did is we sat down with Los Rios and we asked them to put in some places that, if someone signed up for just one class, dropped it, or wasn't working towards a degree, that they actually sit down with them after 2 semesters of seeing that pattern. So they're actually, from the college campus side, they're actually trying to make these students work towards something. And so we've worked that angle out as well.
So just one other question that leads me to ask the question, if now that we have the data and you bring us a recommendation here this evening and you estimate there might be a little bit of bump in revenue, $20,000 or something like that, I guess. Yeah. Right?
And it could be more. We actually want to see how, I think the biggest factor that we're looking at is we don't want to lose revenues, right? We want to gain ridership as much as possible with the least amount of impact to revenues. So we are going to lose $360 a month from those students paying $55. But now those students will be paying $5. And so we think by offering that out and promoting that out, I think they'll be buying, those students with 3 units or less will actually start riding again, paying $5. And then going forward, and I don't want to confuse the matter, but when we get to the spring semester, we're going to actually look towards, instead of just giving them that monthly pass, but looking towards bringing them back into the semester program.
I guess clarify this for me then, please, because so on the revenue in 2015, you had a little less than $1 million.
Yes.
That, you know, by fiscal year 17, you're at a little over $2 million.
Correct.
So what was it that we thought we were going to gain by basically knocking off of the program
Those 3 units.
18,000 students?
Yeah, again, it was the students with 3 or less units were signing up, taking the class, dropping it, or not really actively pursuing a degree. So there was, again, with hindsight, you look back at this and you could say probably a better step would be to put more controls at the Los Rios campus as opposed to just removing the pass. And I think that's what's been, all of this has kind of been done in the past couple years.
Because I doubt very seriously after getting this information that very many folks were enrolling just so they could get an RT pass. So whatever was going on in their lives that they needed to pursue or whatever. But I think, again, what this shows, though, is we've lost a very large pool of our riders from that particular source. So.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments? Is there a motion?
I'll move the item.
All right, moved by Director Moore and second by Director Natoli. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm sorry, you're right, Jeffrey. As always, Jeffrey Tardigia. We will just forget about that whole vote thing.
I'm sorry, guys, but what I will offer to you this is last time you did this, 2015, I brought to your attention exactly what you're now attempting to discuss and talk about. The other side I will also offer is I think the ERP program is more than 400 students at the college. I think also the disability at even at City College is more than 400 students. So I'd like to see if there can be some validation of what American River College and what Sacramento City has. And there's other programs that are also involved with this. But there was that discussion about whether it was 1 to 3 units, 1 to 5 units through there. And you guys didn't even know how much a unit cost going through there. Now, I asked when we went through this, and you also introduced the summer program, which Brett did track. So you learned what the ridership was when you installed a summer program, which had not been there before. What you also are discovering is that most of them went to the paratransit, and that is a high-cost ridership. That is your 400 ridership through here. I'm hoping that likewise, if you're doing this and you have these, should we say, bits of information, that you make sure that when the vote comes to the students, that you do it in the spring with the voting process that they currently have of elections. Last time, you popped this in as a special election item at the start of the semester, and you wondered why you got the results that you got through there. So please make sure that you work in conjunction and you understand, you know, by going to the, should we say, I think it's still Los Rios' chancellor's office is still on Howell Avenue, and making sure that you understand. At that time, you had a brand new person at that end as well, and she didn't understand the contracts that she was signing, and you had exactly the results that you have here. So I'm sorry, guys, you know, I mean, this is great to see, but it's $5 per month, or, you know, and the thing of trying to provide a freebie through there, this is about just like the other one of inviting back to the situation that you did not want to have, of people that just bought a Los Rios pass and then didn't take any, you know, use it. So please, you know, I understand your purpose and what you want to. I think you need to make sure and study it well. And I don't think this paper gives you a full discussion of what's going on. But I understand your purpose. But please, I don't like what you're trying to do again.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Now we still have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Next item.
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, Sonia's
Next
motion
item.
carries at 100 votes. Next item is item number 11, resolution temporarily authorizing free rides on Smart Smart RT ride service for groups of 5 or more with a common origin and destination through modification of the definition of fare equivalent presented by Brent Berniker.
Okay, sure. So the reason why you're hearing a lot of these promotional opportunities is we've discussed ridership is declining at the last board meeting. We discussed that we're going to come back this board meeting and a couple other board meetings in the future to kind of come up with ideas to address that ridership. This is a big issue for us. We've been looking at the data for a long time, and we've been trying to make slow changes, and we realize that some of those slow changes aren't giving the results, so we want to come up with more aggressive changes. And I think the Los Rios one was a great example where we're not changing the contract too much, but we're going to we think we can get a good impact from ridership with very little revenue reduction. This next one was microtransit. We've had a lot of success, great success with microtransit. As I think Henry showed a little earlier, we have over 17,000 rides from microtransit. One of the important lessons that we've learned from this program, though, is productivity is the key to success. Therefore, to promote this service, we'd like to have the opportunity to temporarily provide free group trips for those when there's 5 or more people. Those people need to have the same common origin and destination. This, we think, will encourage new travel behavior patterns, and at the end, it's going to actually introduce them to RT and really get them excited about transit. Again, we don't anticipate there being a lot of significant revenue impact from this. It's a temporary promotion, and if you look at the data, only 69 people out of the 17,000 trips were group trips, so there's not a lot of risk based on the historical data. Furthermore, the big thing is the cost for this service is being paid for through an existing revenue stream, the STA revenue streams. So any variable cost as a result of adding additional passengers is expected to be minimal. With that being said, we're looking for approval on this program effective immediately.
All right, so it's the RT pub crawl. Any questions? Questions? Is there a motion?
It's too late.
Mr. Chair, I think you can save some money with this one.
Yeah, okay.
So I'll move the item.
Second.
Moved by Director Harris, second by Director Budge. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
Motion carries at 100 votes. Item number 12, San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority. There's a written report in your binder if there are any comments. I know Director Hume is not here to provide any additional comments.
But we do have Mr. Barnbaum.
Thank you, Chair Kennedy, members of the board. I was, for the record, present San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority meeting in July in Sacramento. Couple highlights for the public and the viewing audience, but as well as the board and staff too. Former RT board member, chair of the San Joaquin and Capital Corridor JPA, Steve Cohn, attended the meeting and made a presentation about the Sacramento Valley Rail Working Group. Very interesting presentation. Their group typically meets immediately after SACOG board meetings in the daytime, and they let me know that their next meeting that they're going to convene will be right after the September SACOG board meeting in SACOG offices. The board discussed an agenda item about scheduling and operations, and there was a lot of discussion and information and education, in fact, about the conductors, the onboard crew, including the lead service attendants and the engineers, and rest periods. Several delays have occurred since Morning Express took effect. Mainly, some examples have included the train from Oakland to Fresno has gotten into Fresno too late, requiring a mandated rest period and then starting the Morning Express late without very much information to the riders as to why is the train leaving late and getting into Sacramento late. So one of the options in discussion is making that last train of the night, Oakland to Fresno, return as Oakland to Bakersfield, and the next to last train, which is the 5:30 departure out of Sacramento, be the train that only goes as far as Fresno rather than Bakersfield. So if in case any delays are encountered, they would be very minimal to not impact the rest period needed for the crews to be the train crew the next morning going back to Sacramento. And other scheduled and logistical changes are being considered. Staff is going into, with the chairman, Vito Chiesa of Stanislaus County, into negotiations with the host railroads. We're hoping for some changes to happen based on that in the fall. The board is going to next meet in September on the 28th in Merced, but has not set a time yet. I'll let you know. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions, issues, concerns? Okay, with that, I believe we will recess to close session.
And I'll read the items. Conference with labor negotiator, employee organization, ASME supervisor unit. And a second item, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, Sacramento Regional Transit District versus Packer Transportation.
And Mr. Chair, I assume there's no reporting out on this?
Right.
So people don't need to.
Yep.
Yeah, they have.